Hello and welcome everyone to today's session. Today in this session we will be walking you through this project on Vagrant. But before I start to explain what Vagrant is, I would like to explain an important thing you need to know so that you get to understand Vagrant more, which is the virtual machine. What is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is a machine that does not exist physically, but it can be used just like a physical computer. So virtual machine is just like an emulation of your own physical computer. Any task that can be done on physical machine, it can also be done on a virtual machine. This virtual machine is built on top of your physical system. So this means that this virtual machine share the same hardware resources with your physical computer. So there are some cases that you might feel the need of installing another operating system on your computer and you don't want to get rid of the existing operating system. So what some people do is this: they kind of partition their own hard disk, right? That is, they double boot their computer. So in one of the partition they kind of install, let's say, a Windows operating system, and on the other partition they install Linux operating system. So but let's say I'm not interested in using the Linux much more, it's just for practice sake, just like in case of this LX. Instead of me to kind of install it on my hard disk, it's just better for me to install a virtual machine. This virtual machine will help me install a Linux operating system on my Windows computer, and anything that I can do with the Linux operating system, if it was installed on my hard disk, I can do the same thing on my virtual machine. So the virtual machine is just, like I said, an emulation of your physical computer. Anything your physical computer can do, you can do the same thing using your virtual machine. Okay, you can have many virtual machines on your physical computer with different operating system on this machine. So you can have a lot of virtual machines, if you like, with different operating system, and it will work just fine on your machine. Okay, so this physical computer that hosts these virtual machines is called what? Is called the host computer. Virtual machine should have its own configuration, just like an operating system. Okay, in an ideal situation, virtual machines are supposed to have their own configuration, just like an operating system, CPU, RAM, hard disk, memory, and a lot of things, just like your own Windows operating system. So virtual machines are supposed to have all that as well, but this configuration is done after installing the virtual machine, and it is done manually. Okay, so you are the one to give the amount of, you are the one to set the amount of memory that this virtual machine will be using from your own hard disk, right? So all these configurations for a virtual machine are done manually, but this manual configuration is really a hectic task. It is seriously a hectic task. In this scenario, Vagrant comes into the picture. So this is where Vagrant comes into help. Like I said, configuring these virtual machines is very tedious. Yes, it's very hectic. There are a lot of configurations that you need to do to set this machine up. Okay, it's very hectic. So in order to avoid all this hectic task, that's the configuration, we simply use what is called the Vagrant. What is Vagrant? Using simple terms, Vagrant is simply an open source tool that helps to automate the creation and management of virtual machine. It's an open source tool. Did you hear that? It's an open source tool that helps to automate the creation and management of virtual machine. So earlier I said the configuration of this virtual machine is a hectic task. Yes, it is a hectic task, but with Vagrant, all this configuration is automated. All this configuration is automated. Vagrant simply automate this configuration for a virtual machine, which saves a lot of time, right? So this is what a Vagrant is. We have already discussed what a virtual machine is, right? So in Vagrant, only one configuration file is maintained, and this file is called the Vagrantfile. So what is this Vagrantfile? All configurations of a virtual machine are mentioned inside this Vagrantfile. So as we said earlier, that configuring virtual machine manually is very hectic, but with Vagrant in play, every configuration is automated. So this is one good thing about the Vagrant. It reduces the configuration file of a virtual machine. We are going to see this Vagrant file when we begin to install these tools, right? So there are a lot of things about Vagrant. You just have to go and find out more about it. This is just a brief explanation of it, right? So now that we know what virtual machine and Vagrant are, let's begin the installation of these tools. So before that, I would like to tell you that if you don't have virtualization enabled on your computer, Vagrant is not going to work. Yes, Vagrant will not work on your computer. You cannot use Vagrant, right, if you don't have virtualization enabled on your computer, right? Since this is a virtual machine we are going to install, so you have to enable this virtualization. If you don't have it enabled, then it will not work. So because there are a lot of people that they don't even check for the virtualization status, they just begin to install Vagrant and they will be complaining like, it's not working, why is it not working, I've done this. They will be panicking, and before you know, they will just lose interest, and the problem is from them, right? So let me show you a simple step of how you can enable this virtualization on your computer, right? So if your computer is turned on, I'm using a HP computer, so I'm sure it will work just fine as other computers. So just go and restart your computer. After restarting your computer, when the screen dims, right, that's when the screen light takes off, then begin to press F10. Keep pressing F10, keep pressing F10 until it display a screen just like this for you. Okay, so if your computer is turned off, right, if your computer is turned off, what I explained now is just if your computer is turned on, you can just restart it. If your computer is turned off, simply press the power button. After pressing the power button, begin to press F10 on your keyboard. So begin to press it, just be pressing F10, just be pressing it until this screen also appears. So this is the BIOS settings of your computer. Sorry, I'm using picture for the demonstration. Hope it will work, because I don't know how to record the BIOS screen. That's why I chose to use this picture for demonstration. So as you can see from the top left of your screen, we are on the main tab, right? In this place, your mouse cannot work. We don't use mouse here, okay? So all you have to do is press the right arrow key on your keyboard to switch between tabs. Right now we are on the main tab, so press the right arrow key 1 and press it again 2 to go to the system configuration. So now we are in the system configuration. Yes, so as you can see, under the system configuration we have language at the top, then virtualization technology, right? So this is virtualization technology. As you can see, my own virtualization technology is disabled as well, right? It was enabled, actually I disabled it for the purpose of this tutorial here. So you can see it is disabled. So all you have to do is just press enter. When you press enter, then you can see these options, enabled and disabled. So just click on the top arrow key to go to enable and then press enter. So once you press enter, it will change to enabled. So the next thing you have to do is just to press F10 to save and exit. It will prompt this window for you, so just click on yes. So after clicking on yes, virtualization is now enabled on your computer, so your computer will start. So now we can begin the installation of this virtual machine and Vagrant on our computer. So now let's open this file here to begin the installation. Alright, so you can just go ahead and read all this documentation here. Just read everything. So I'm just going straight to how to install Vagrant on your personal computer. So if you're using a Mac, this is the process you have to follow to install this Vagrant and virtual machine on your computer. But since I'm using Windows, so I'm going to scroll down to Windows. So to download VirtualBox, use this link. So open the link to download VirtualBox. So you can see, just select your host. Since I'm installing on a Windows computer, so I will click on Windows, and this will allow me, you can see it has started installing, but I don't want to install it because I already have it on my computer, so I will just have to stop it. So same applies to the Vagrant. If you click on this link here, so also it will download this Vagrant for you. So just select your host here. Since I'm installing for Windows, you can select either this or this, but I prefer you download this. So just click on download. Immediately you click on download, it will start downloading as well. So now let's go and see how to install this. Yes, so you can see this is Vagrant and VirtualBox, right? So I'm going to install the VirtualBox first. So let me double click on it. Alright, so click on yes. So it's preparing to install, then click on next. so I prefer to leave everything the way it is. So I'll just be clicking next, then next, install as well. So it will take a while for the installation to complete. Okay, yes, so now the VirtualBox has finished installing. So let me uncheck this because I don't want it to start. So just click on finish. So now let's go back and install Vagrant. Okay, so this is it, this is Vagrant. So let's install Vagrant. So this VirtualBox is just one of the virtual machines that you can use on your computer. You already know what a virtual machine is, right? So now to install the Vagrant, so you just click on next here, accept, next. Alright, so you can see the installation is finished. So just click on this finish. So it says you must restart your system for the configuration changes made to Vagrant to take effect. So you have to restart your system for that. So I'm not going to click on this restart now because there are some files I want to save first, but I will actually restart the computer after saving the file. Yes, so now we've successfully installed these tools. So the next thing they ask us to do is to what? Open the command prompt. Add the Ubuntu 20.04 focal image to your box list. So what this step is actually talking about is that we should use our command prompt and add this Ubuntu to our virtual machine, just like we are installing an operating system on your virtual machine. We've already installed our virtual machine, right? This is the virtual machine we installed, VirtualBox, right? So now the next thing is to install this operating system, which is Ubuntu, on this virtual machine. So that's just what this step is talking about. So to do that, open your command prompt, right? So type in this command here, Vagrant add Ubuntu /focal 64. So this is the command. So press enter. So you can see from here they said, warning, this step can take time. Yes, this step actually takes time. So you just have to sit and relax and wait for the installation to complete. Okay, as you can see, it's saying the box I'm trying to add already exists. Yes, I've already installed Vagrant. I just uninstalled it because of this tutorial, so it will definitely detect this. But for your own sake, it will not prompt you that this box is already available. So it will kind of take a while for the installation to complete. A lot of configuration will take place actually. So let me move to the next step. So since I have the box installed, the next thing is to create your virtual machine. So to create your virtual machine, you use Vagrant init Ubuntu /focal 64. So Vagrant init Ubuntu /focal 64. So I'm sure earlier in this video I explained something called the Vagrantfile, which I said all configurations of the virtual machines are inside that Vagrantfile, right? So what this command is going to do is it will create this Vagrantfile for us. Okay, so just press enter. So these steps also takes a while, so you just have to wait for it to complete. Okay, you can see it says Vagrantfile also exists in this directory. Okay, so let me cd into my desktop. So I want this Vagrantfile now to be installed in my desktop, right? So you can see I'm now in my desktop. So let me run the command again to install this Vagrantfile on my desktop so that I can be able to show you that Vagrantfile that I've been talking about. Yes, so you can see it says Vagrantfile has been placed in this directory. So now let's see this file if it has been created. Yes, so you can see this is the file, Vagrantfile. So it has been created here on my desktop. So this file contains all this configuration for your virtual machine. Like I said, when you are configuring a virtual machine without the use of Vagrant, everything is done manually, and this takes a lot of time, right? And there are some things that you might not even do it right. But with Vagrant into play, everything is done automatically, and this Vagrant file contains all these configurations to configure your virtual machines automatically. So that's the importance of this Vagrant. So the next thing is what? The next thing is Vagrant plugin install Vagrant VBQuest. So this is done to avoid any issues with the previous versions of Vagrant, right? So that your Vagrant can be compatible on any host. So you have to do this. If you don't do this plugin install, actually there will be a lot of problem. So to avoid that, just do it, right? So the command, let me scroll up. Yes, so Vagrant plugin install Vagrant, right, VB guest, VB guest. So press enter. So you can see it is installing. So let's wait a while for it to complete as well. Yes, so you can see it says installed the plugin. Okay, so the plugin has been installed right now. So the next thing is what? It's to start our virtual machine. Yes, so now we've created the virtual machine, we've configured it, or let's say we've done some part of the configuration. Now let's start the virtual machine. To start the virtual machine, simply type in this command Vagrant up, and your Vagrant will start. It's just like your Vagrant is sleeping. So when you use Vagrant up, it will wake up, right? So that's just what this command does actually. I think this is one of the better to explain. So just press enter. This process also takes a time. So everything about this is actually takes time. So you just have to be patient and wait for it to finish. Yes, so now as you can see, we have successfully started our virtual machine. Okay, so the next thing now is to go inside this virtual machine. Okay, so to do that, we use this command Vagrant SSH. When you enter Vagrant SSH, you are now inside your virtual machine. So anything you do on your terminal is like you are doing it inside your virtual machine. So let's do that. Vagrant SSH, press enter. So actually, let's say you used your Vagrant today and you want to use it tomorrow. So instead of you to do all these setups from the beginning, you are just supposed to use this Vagrant up to start your virtual machine. That is when you come the next day, you just use Vagrant up to start the Vagrant machine, and then type Vagrant SSH to what? To enter your virtual machine. So now you can see I am currently inside my virtual machine. This is it. You can see Vagrant at Ubuntu. So this is my operating system. So everything that I can do on my Ubuntu operating system, if it was installed on my hard disk, I can do it here on my virtual machine as well. So like I said, this Vagrant is very, very important because you can use this Vagrant to practice all these LX tasks offline. Okay, there is no need for you to connect your computer to the internet for you to be able to use the Vagrant. Vagrant only requires internet if you want to add or commit and push to your GitHub account, right? So that's definitely required an internet connection. But let's say you just want to do everything within your terminal or your computer locally and be able to see how all these things are, then there is no need for you to connect your computer to the internet. So this is how to set up these virtual machines, the Vagrant, and also how to do the configuration. You can see this configuration is automated. Had it been you are supposed to do this configuration manually, it would take a lot of time, but all these configurations are now automated, right? They are now automated. So that's one thing about this Vagrant. So now we finished setting up this Vagrant. Let's go back to the tasks. Yes, so let's scroll down. So just try and answer these questions. What is a virtual machine? I've explained that. What is Vagrant? I've also explained that. Who wrote Vagrant? You can just Google that. That's Michel something, I can't remember the other name. So what is Ubuntu? Ubuntu is an operating system under the Linux distribution, right? So what does it mean? Check that as well. How to use VMs and Vagrant, we've seen that, but we are going to see more about it. So what does this command uname do? We are going to talk about that as well before this video ends. So let's scroll down here. So you can see this warning. They said this project can't be done in sandboxes. So you have to take note of that. You cannot do this on your sandboxes. Even if you do it on your sandboxes, I'm not sure it will be checked. Okay, so it can be done only in your local computer. Please refer to our concept pages for your operating system. So just know that it cannot be done on your sandboxes. You have to use an external terminal. So that's what we are going to do now. So now you see here they said you will need Git for this project. You might have to install it on your computer. I'm sure if you've installed the GitHub desktop, you might have installed Git as well. So configure your basic info, so you know how to do that, right? You know the command to configure your name and email from the terminal. Then the next thing they said, using the graphic interface on the website, create the repository if not done yet. I'm sure you know how to create repository. This is the description of the repository, public, the name of the repository, and there should be no readme and .git ignore. So I don't think there is need for me to go and be showing you how to create these repositories, because we've done that in the past. Okay, so just go to your GitHub account and create this repository directly from the graphic interface. So now, since I already have this repository created on my GitHub, what I'm going to do is to clone it so that I can be able to have access to that repository locally from my computer, right? So how do we do that? Firstly, they said we should navigate to our home directory. Git bash. Yes, right. Okay, so let me let me copy my SSH from the sandbox. You can't do this project in the sandbox, so I'm sure I explained that. All right, so let me log in through the SSH and the password. All right, yes, then password, paste, press enter. Yes, so now I'm successfully logged in to my terminal, right? So what I'm going to do now is, the next thing they ask us to do is what? They said we should navigate to our home directory, right? So currently I'm in my home directory. Let me first clear the screen. So I've already created this repository from my GitHub account, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is to clone this repository so that I can be able to use it on my local computer, right? So how do I do that? Git clone, right? Git clone, then paste your personal access token, yes, at github.com, right? Then slash your username, then slash the repository you want to clone, right? .git, then press enter. So you see, it says you appear to have cloned an empty repository. Yes, because we don't have any content in that repository. So the next thing is to configure our basics, our email and our username. So to do that, git config, right, global user.email. I think this should be the command, right? Then enter your email here. Right, then press enter. So now the next thing is to configure your username. Git config global user.name, then enter your username. Yes, so now we have successfully done the configurations. To check if these configurations are done successfully, you can just type in git config global user.name and it will show your username, or git config global user.email and it will show you your email. We've already seen how to do this in one of our previous videos, so let's not waste time on this. So let me clear my screen. So now the next thing is I'm going to go into this repository. Since it has been cloned to my local computer, let me cd into it 0, right? Yes, so now I'm inside this repository. So they ask us to create a directory. Already there is a directory, we've created it, right? This 0day. Okay, so navigate to this new directory. Yes, we've navigated to directory. Initialize git and add the remote origin. Okay, we are going to do that as well. So create a file readme.md with Emacs or other command line editors and write a small markdown text to present this project. This file is mandatory in project. Let me just copy this and add this to this readme file that they ask us to create. So let me just say echo, right? Let me paste it here, paste, then readme.md. So this is the file, right? ls. So let me cut. Okay, yes, so you can see you successfully written something inside the file. So add this new file to git, commit the changes with the message my first commit. Okay, so this should be the message of your commit. So what I'm going to do is git add dot, then git commit, then paste my commit message here, right? Enter. Okay, then git push. Yes, so you can see we've successfully added, committed, and pushed these changes to our GitHub. So you see it says you pushed your first file in your first repository of the first task of your LX project. So let's check if what we did is correct. Let's start a new check. Yes, so you can see what we did is absolutely correct. I can see some people complaining that the checker is not even detecting that they've created this file 0 day. The reason is because you created this 0 day in your root directory. That's what I showed you before I start the cloning. I had to switch back to my home directory, right? So you have to do the cloning in your home directory. So we are done with the first task here. So let me clear my screen, and I hope everything is understood, right? So the next task here says what? Inside the 0 day repo, create a new directory called 0x00 Vagrant. Okay, so let me copy this. All right, you can actually do this project on your Vagrant, right? You can do this, you can do it in your Vagrant. You can just type in Vagrant up, your Vagrant will start, and then Vagrant SSH, then switch to your home repository and do the project in your Vagrant. You can do that as well, it will work. Just make sure that you cloned the repository from your Vagrant. So it's absolutely the same thing, and it's fine as well. So inside this 0 day repo, create a new directory. Okay, mkdir, right? So let me paste the directory name, then press enter. Okay, so add a readme file to this directory. So what I'm going to do is what? cd into this new directory, right? So add a readme file. So let me say echo, let me just say another readme file. You have to be descriptive when you are writing a readme file, right? Because it should contain something about a description about what your repository or project is about. So just don't mind me writing all this short information. Okay, it's just for the purpose of these tutorials, but ideally it should be something descriptive. So readme.md. okay, so press enter. So let me cut into this. Yes, so you can see I've successfully written something inside my readme file. Okay, so it says SSH into your Ubuntu VM. Yes, we are inside our Ubuntu virtual machine. So what it says is, what does the command uname print when you run it without any option? Okay, let's see. You can see this uname prints Linux. So why? Because Linux is our operating system. Currently we are using Linux as our operating system. So I think this answers the question here that says, what does the command uname do? It prints the information of our operating system. Had it mean you are using this on Windows, it will definitely display Windows for you here. So what they ask us to do here is what? Type your answer into a file in the 0x00 Vagrant directory and push it to GitHub. Name your file accordingly as shown below. So we are going to type in the answer that this uname command print, which is Linux, inside this file here, hello Ubuntu. So let's copy this file here. All right, so let me just vi to open and create the file at once. Okay, go to insert mode. So what does it print? It prints Linux, right? So that's just the answer. So escape, save, and exit. So this is it. So git add, git commit. Let me just name this commit task 1, right? Then git push. So let's check if everything we did is correct. Start a new test. Yes, it worked. So this is how to do these tasks here. So in this video I tried as much as possible to explain what virtual machine is, what Vagrant is, why do we need this Vagrant, and why is it important to us, and how to do the configuration automatically for this Vagrant, and also how to access and do tasks using this Vagrant, right? I've showed you how to do all these things. So this brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you very much. till we meet in our next session. If you do like this video, just leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe and click on the notification icon on our channel so that you get notified when we post our next video.